We can start. Good morning, everyone. Again, the last day, final day. Hopefully, it will be soon over. So, thank you for hanging on for 3 days. Um, Finally, I just want to just start today with a health, safety, and a well-being moment. This is a general practice in my organization currently, where we actually start all of our meetings with a health and safety moment, right? So whatever work we do, be it construction, be it safety, be it environment, it all reminds us that we are all human beings first, and that our health, our safety, and our well-being is the priority. So, and the process is where anyone within our team just takes their hand up and says, I want to share something for health and safety. And both of us are actually feeling a bit low because we come from the plains. It's very warm weather down there, and Shillong we found it's a bit cold, which is nice. Of course, it's very nice. It's very comfortable, but for us, it's like a very quick transition. So our body has to deal with it. So that's what I wanted to share, is that whenever we are going, somewhere that we know we expect there's a drastic change in the environment or the climate or the weather, whatever that is, preparedness is very important. I flew directly from Bangalore, so not much. I was not really very prepared. I was hoping it would not be this cold, but especially this part of the Shillong is colder. He was also in Guwahati. Guwahati is very, very hot nowadays, especially even during the winters also it's very hot. So last couple of days we been a bit under the weather. So that's what we wanted to share. And if anyone wants to share anything, you can share it. This is just a well-being moment which is very, very relevant to us now. But in our organization, we also share something from the mental health as well. So if we are feeling anxious, or we are feeling rushed, we are not feeling comfortable with whatever, because we are all very busy throughout our days during the work that we do. We do share like what are the issues that we are facing, and what do we do to deal with it, right? So this was a quick health and safety moment. Thanks for listening. Does anyone want to say anything, or we can move ahead? Thank you.
Okay, good morning. We will be starting today with a topic that is known to, I guess, everybody, and we all talk about it. Like it's, as we call it, the Climate Chronicles. It is a story that started back in the 1950s, when we didn't have to worry or think about climate that much, because we didn't see any drastic changes there. But the need of the hour is, what can we do, or what can we devise, or how can we innovate for the drastic changes that are happening in our climate today. If I ask any one of you what is climate change, I know everybody knows what is it, right? We are experiencing it somewhere down the other. So, well, being a teacher, I have the habit of asking questions, and I'll ask a very basic question, and I guess everybody has studied about it. You all know what is the greenhouse effect, right? Greenhouse effect, what is it? We build greenhouses in our houses, offices, in the botanical gardens. What is a greenhouse? How does it work? Anybody? Any kind of answers are welcome.
One word is fine.
Yes.
Huh? Oh, the song.
Okay.
It's actually nice. It's relaxing.
So a greenhouse is basically, let's say, the earth. Now, greenhouse effect leads to global warming, and global warming leads to climate change. But as global warming and climate change is an adverse thing that is happening to the world, is greenhouse effect also a bad thing that is happening? Greenhouse effect is the effect due to which we are alive, due to which all the species survive on this earth. Otherwise, the temperature of the earth would have been very cold. When the sun rays enter into the earth's atmosphere, some part of it gets trapped by our green plants, by the carbon dioxide available in our atmosphere, which actually keeps the temperature very suitable for all the species to survive. In certain places where the carbon emissions are less, we experience cold climates, and in certain places where let's say there are more trees, we experience a more hot climate or a warm climate, we can say. Now, when the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, it rises due to all the emissions and everything, it traps more heat, right? It traps more heat, and only then the climate or the weather or the temperature around the world, it rises, and that is the greenhouse effect. Now, greenhouse effect is something which is making all the species survive on this earth, but how has this greenhouse effect being affected by all the other factors is what we are going to see in the presentation. If you see in the last line here, there are three main things. It's written the atmosphere, oceans and land, and the interconnection between all these three is actually striking the balance that we need to survive. If any one of these three factors get affected in some place on earth, then we see there is a drastic change in other parts as well. Now, let's say as a very layman, I can say that okay, the polar ice caps are melting, what should I do with it? I live very far away from the poles, right? But that is not the fact. Something is happening in some part of the world. We live on land, something is happening in water, but it affects all the other parameters that make us survive on this particular planet. We all know that the use of fossil fuels is a major factor, right? But nowadays, $70 million in subsidy is given to purchase these fossil fuels, whereas which makes the use of fossil fuels more reachable for everybody, right? But if we do not subsidize this market of fossil fuels, then it will be a little bit costlier and it will not be that accessible for people to reach, right? Then when you do not have something or you cannot afford something, what do? We settle for something which is less expensive, right? Or which is let's say we can make in our own houses. The alternative solution to fossil fuels is the energy that can be renewed, right? Or the energy that can be processed, or the energy which can be recycled. So that is something that we have to think upon, and in the later part of the presentation, obviously the entire world is thinking about this carbon emissions. So what has been done in the world till now, we'll discuss a little bit about that also. Well, we're just talking about the melting ice caps. From the 1950s, when the Industrial Revolution was at its peak, only then the carbon emissions saw a very sharp, or you can say it's a very exponential growth in the emissions that happened. Before that, we did not have to worry that much about the emissions that were happening. But only after this idea of Industrial Revolution came into existence, the emissions of carbon began rising at a very high speed. This was the first event that happened which actually enhanced the emissions, or people actually thought that okay, we can proceed in this manner of development. This was the first thing. The second development happened, I'm using the word development, happened in 1950s when we started using more vehicles, automobiles. That was the second factor which enhanced the carbon emissions in the world. These two factors, when you add them up, this is the result that we get. Now, when these ice caps they melt, let's say there has been a 2-degree rise in temperature, which is a reason why these polar ice caps are melting. Now, when this ice melts from the ice sheets or from the glaciers, it forms a black mass of ice, or the water is a little bit black. What happens when we wear black clothes in summer? We feel more hot, right? Why? Because it traps more heat. Same thing happens there. So let's say the temperature globally has risen only 2 degrees, but as the ice that is melting, it forms a black mass. So that melted ice is attracting more heat, which is making the melting of the ice caps more faster, right? Can you see the line here? So that is why these ice caps are melting at a very faster rate that we had actually thought of. Obviously, due to climate change, we are experiencing extreme weather events. I don't know if you have heard this, but the capital of Indonesia is being relocated somewhere else. Jakarta is thought to be a sinking city right now, and it is relocated to some place else, which is also a matter of concern because the place where it is being shifted is actually a wildlife sanctuary. So that is also a very big matter of concern. We are experiencing sudden flash floods, cloud bursts, many events that we haven't heard of before. Why is this happening? The answer to this is climate change in some way, because climate change cannot be a direct factor. Climate change actually it pushes other factors to create these events. Ocean acidification is, have you heard of this term before? When we trap, because ocean is the biggest sink of carbon in the world, right? So when this trap more carbon, what happens is the pH of the ocean water, it drops, and when it drops below 7, it becomes more acidic, which in turn affects the coral reefs. Now coral reefs and the rainforest of Amazon, the tropical rainforest that we have, are the ecosystems with the highest species diversity in the world. So if a patch of grassland is destroyed and if a patch of coral reef is destroyed, we are losing much more number of species in the coral reefs, and that coral reefs cannot be replenished. Whereas the grasslands, you can replenish a grassland very easily, but replenishing a coral reef is much more tough. So ocean acidification is also another problem that we are facing because of the global climate change. Now, if we talk about species extinction, first of all, I like to take your attention to this word. It is called as the range of tolerance. There is a very famous law called as the Shelford's law of tolerance, which states that, or which explains the global distribution of certain species. Now, the cockroach, it is found globally, everywhere, right? Maximum parts of the world you can find a cockroach, but you do not find a polar bear in majority of the parts. Why is this so? Because all the species have a particular range of tolerance with us, right? Let's say, where's the marker? Let's say this is the optimum level of temperature. Let's say this is plus 50. I'll be a little bit optimistic, and this is minus 50. And let's say this is the range of tolerance for temperature for human beings to survive. That means we can stay at minus 50 degrees also, we can stay at plus 50 degrees also, right? It's a very wide range of tolerance. So that is why humans are found everywhere on Earth. Let's talk about an animal whose range of tolerance is this much narrow. What will happen to that animal if there is just a shift of 2-degree rise in temperature or a 2-degree fall of temperature? Because they are restricted to a very small geographic area, there will be straight leading to extinction. Can you identify this species? It's a tiger, right? What tiger? How many species of tigers are there? We only know the Royal Bengal tiger, right? This is a picture of a Javan tiger. It was extinct in the 1970s, I guess, because of habitat loss. Now, climate change or global warming is not the direct factor, but due to global climate change or the global warming, what is happening is that there are certain species of plants or certain habitats that are going into extinction. Nowadays, when we talk about wildlife conservation, we do not say that we have to guard one species. Let's say if I am protecting the rhinos, that does not mean that I'll have a gun in my hand and I'll follow the rhinos wherever they go. I have to protect their house, I have to protect their habitat, only then the animal will be protected. So, due to habitat loss, we are facing the extinction of these kinds of species. Many species of tortoise, many species of rodents. There's a rodent which is found in the Great Barrier Reef in a small island. So, if a particular animal is geographically isolated in a place, then those kinds of animals are the most affected by climate change because they cannot move to other parts due to geographical isolation. Have you heard of the golden langur? It's a species that is endemic to Northeast India, in Assam and some parts of Bhutan, right? If you see that on the northern bank is Bhutan, the mountains of Bhutan, then we have the Sankosh river, this side is the Brahmaputra, and we have the Manas river. Now all these are what? These are geographical barriers and the animal is found in between that. Now if anything, if there is habitat loss, if there is any disease that outbreaks in that particular area, the entire species will be washed off, right? That is why we always say that any ecosystem with the highest species diversity is the most stable ecosystem. More the animals, more is the complexity and more stable it is. Let's say you have a rubber garden, the rubber tree garden in your backyard. We call it as a monoculture, only one species. If a particular disease outbreaks in that particular ecosystem, what will happen? The entire ecosystem will be washed off. But that same disease, if it outbreaks in a forest when you have 100 to 200 species, the entire ecosystem will not be washed off. That is, that due to climate change, there are various diseases also which are creating pandemics in the world. So that is also another matter of concern to species which have a narrow range of tolerance. Another thing is there, I'll just add up here, that there is a factor called co-extinction. Let's say there is an orchid species which grows on a tree, on a specific tree. And if that particular tree goes extinct, then the orchid will also go extinct because they are completely interdependent on each other. So, due to these mass extinctions which are happening due to habitat loss, we are also experiencing certain co-extinctions which we have never thought of. Now, let's come to renewable solutions. Yesterday, we have spoken about sustainable cities and communities. And why do we need sustainable cities and communities? And why do we need green innovations? The answer to all of this will come, one second. Yes. So, while talking about any solutions of global climate change, as the word suggests, it's global. It's not restricted to your own backyard. So that is why we need global collaborations from everybody. Yesterday we have already spoken that all these problems, it can be global, but it has a specific area-wise perspective in the answer to climate change in Meghalaya is completely different to the answer to climate change in Assam because they have complete different geographical boundaries, their different cultures and everything. So if I can adopt something or a green innovation that has been done in Meghalaya for many years, then I will try to adopt that particular thing if I can use it in my house. So that is why the global partnership or collaborations are important. Let's say in India, the situation or the cultural beliefs that we have, the age-old traditions that we have, the geography is more or less similar in all the Southeast Asian countries, right? So from the Southeast Asian countries also we can adopt something. They can adopt something from us. That will only happen when all these stakeholders will sit in the same table and discuss about one common issue, which is climate change. As I just said, in 1992, the first climate change conference happened in Rio de Janeiro, and at that time, carbon emissions were not taken into consideration that much, but we were only concentrating on the emission of greenhouse gases as a whole. So when we talk about carbon, there is methane, there is CSGs, there are many other things are there, which was followed by Kyoto Protocol in 1997, from where the word carbon trading, carbon emissions were so much famous. Now, I think everybody knows what is carbon trading. Let's say I am a country, I am a developed country, and I am emitting so much of carbon. I am producing this, I am producing that, and my factories are producing so much of carbon. Now, when this particular Kyoto Protocol said, they said, ki, okay, you go for development, but also you have to help other countries in the sector of environment so that the carbon that you are emitting here can be absorbed somewhere else by the money you make from emitting this carbon. This can be as simply said as this. That means if I am USA and I am emitting carbon, so the amount of carbon I emit, then I have to plant that much of trees, let's say in a country like Bhutan or Nepal, or maybe I guess the South American countries are also there, right? Peru, Chile.
Put in Africa.
Yes, or the entire Africa. So if I am emitting carbon, I have a limit to emit carbon, but I have to also plant that many trees or fund that many developmental projects in terms of wildlife, in terms of environment, so that the emissions that I am making can be neutralized by the same environment, because we cannot bring any help from other planets, right? Whatever is here will be recycled here itself, and if it is not recycled, we'll get the adverse effects here itself. Then the Paris Agreement happened, which says to limit global warming 2 degrees. From which period? From the pre-industrial revolution period. So the temperature that was there during the pre-industrial revolution, we have to lower the temperature by 2 degrees, but it came about to 1.5 degrees after mitigation, I guess. And as we sit here today and discuss about climate change, there is another conference that is happening in UAE. I guess it has started at the same time at 11 o'clock as well. It is called as the Conference of Parties, happens every year, and it is also the conference for climate change that is happening.
Follow up from the Paris Agreement.
Yes.
That was COP21.
This was COP21 and this is COP20.
It's COP28.
28.
Which is now happening.
So I guess there are various people sitting in a same platform discussing about climate change. Obviously, we have to empower communities, as I just said, that there are two terms. One is resistance, one is resilience. Resistance is to stop something from being happening. And resilience is when something has happened, how do I spring back to my original position? Now, resistance is something you can achieve in a city that is planned, or maybe a new city that is being formed. We can attempt to make it a resistant community. That is also very impossible. But what we are aiming today is to make resilient communities. Because whenever any problem happens, let's say there is a flash flood in Guwahati, which we experience every day, we are not resilient to that. Because we do not have any mechanism in action to stop that from being happening, okay, resistance is gone. Resilience is that goes in its own way, it takes time, and when it takes time, after that only we find a dry road again. So, making any community resilient is what we are aiming today, because we have lost the time when we were supposed to be resistant. That is why we have to empower communities, take all the knowledge of indigenous peoples, their practices, their beliefs, incorporate them, and then try to find out solutions. Youth activism is something, well, activism is something we don't believe in. Shouting with placards on the street is not an option. But yes, as a youth, we have to raise our voice. We have to suggest the authorities by developing certain innovations or developing certain strategies, so that as a youth you can also partner in the common process of climate change in declining the adverse effects. Policy advocacy, and it's a collective responsibility for everybody. Obviously, all the actions, all the strategies, all the innovations that we make, we need to form a policy at last, implement. For those policies to be implemented, it has to be a law, right? So policy and advocacy of these particular actions that we all discuss is very important. Sustainable lifestyles, this we have already discussed yesterday, that any city, we talk about a city, yesterday we built a city, but let's say it was a small community that you have, or 5-6 villages, 5-6 houses, a small village or a small community. In that level also you have to think. You have to think first at your house, then to your community, then to your town, or maybe then to your city, and then finally to the country. So that is how we have to be sustainable in everything we do. Let's say in the morning we get up, and if you are using any plastics which is single use, you can think about that. We come here, we sit, we talk about devising this and that, but ultimately go back, use a plastic straw, use a plastic cup, right? It goes out of our mind when we are just living our lives. So that is something we have to do. We are seeing some plastic bottles also around. Try not to use them next time. Just a small suggestion, we can carry a bottle like this. It looks good, first of all. Obviously, resistance and resilience, we have already discussed about it, that disaster preparedness is something which falls under resilience. That let's say the Assam's Kaziranga Manas, these falls under the Brahmaputra floodplain. That means we cannot stop the floods from happening. It is an annual event, it will happen, because the geography is set in such a way. But what happens when there is a flood? How do we recover from it? Do we have a mechanism in action? That is what makes us more prepared for any kind of disasters. Obviously, the future landscape is, we are aiming for resilient ecosystems, renewable cities, sustainable industries. Okay, we all know that we cannot stop carbon emissions, but how do we neutralize it is something we should think about. Finally, to reflect on the journey of unraveling the enigma of global climate change, we have to embrace the imperative for action, innovation and unity together. So we need to act, we need to innovate, and then we have to be united in our decision making process, which makes it a complete cycle, not to stop climate change, but to limit it to where it is right now. Otherwise, by 2030, all the sustainable goals are going to fail. Thank you so much. We have a few questions for you.
Or if you have any questions.
Okay, yes. If you do not have any questions, we can move forward with the first question, just like yesterday. I think you can come and join them. It's a group activity.
So 3.
Partnerships, collaborations, as we said. So the first question for you is, how can we collaboratively address the unique climate challenges faced by Meghalaya, considering their diverse ecosystem and vulnerabilities? Now, the entire state of Meghalaya, the geography is not the same. We have different kinds of ecosystems everywhere, and the climate change issues that are faced in Shillong is not the same that is faced in Tura, or maybe to a very remote village in Molinglong, right? So just think about what are the challenges and what can we do to minimize the effects of these challenges. You have 10 minutes for this. Today the questions are going to be a little bit tough as it is the final day. Can we proceed to the next question?
What policy measures can be taken at the state level to promote sustainable practices and mitigate the impact of
Good afternoon, one and all. So, the questions which was given to us and we have to solve is how can we collaboratively address the unique climate challenges faced by Meghalaya, considering the diverse ecosystems and vulnerabilities. To say a few about Meghalaya, actually the state Meghalaya, the ownership rights is only a few, which is owned by the government. It's only 6% of the total geographical area, and the rest is owned by the clan, community, or this private ownerships. So the land system is very much difficult. So if you want to implement everything, we have to collaboratively do along with the public. And the main thing is that because of this land tenure system, we face many problems that we have to take like certificates, NOCs, clearance from them. Because if we implement anything, it'll be not only in the hands of the government. So we have to collaboratively go hand in hand with the community. And in Meghalaya also, the main problem is that we have too many stakeholders. Stakeholders we have in the sense like we have the aims or like a kind of those kingdom type where there's Dalois and all of the ilakas. And apart from that, we have this district councils. We have the Serang Bachnongs. Suppose if we have anything to do, we have anything to do with for the public, especially in terms of plantations and all. If we go with one stakeholder, they give the clearance, but the other stakeholders they might have objected or aim. So that is also the problem. So we have to work hand in hand with them also. Another thing we should have is that we have the own policy that if when we make any policies, it's not only the government should take into consideration, we should also involve the NGOs or the stakeholders, like what I said before, because everything we do, it should go hand in hand. So even this mining also should be restricted. Like yesterday, the issues which we again I can elaborate on that because mining is mainly when you talk about mining, mostly we talk only of coal. But we forgot about limestone, sand mining, and other natural resources. So that also should be taken into consideration. And implementing the existing acts. Actually, now we have so many acts, but we can say it is just an act, but there's no action. So that also should be taken into consideration. And strict action should be taken for that. Those who have doing anything against those acts should be taken, should be booked or should be punished. And awareness and involving the community in development and conservation. So at the bottom line, I can say that if anything we go do anything, that development and conservation should go hand in hand. So that is the thank you.
You've considered the diverse ecosystems very nicely in the answer. Thank you. Anybody else would like to elaborate?
or maybe the next question.
We'll have one, and then for the second question, we'll have only one answer.
This question, I want to get like kind of.
To answer this question, like I want to give an answer how we can combat the effect of climate change by using the traditional means. Like we have seen, like going through all these adong shnong of all these himas in our state, we have different type like the secret growth, like which is known as the Lao Kantang. This secret growth acts a mean to protect the forest. Like no one can cut down the forest from there, and no one can even use it as a commercial purpose. Like we have seen like this system, like this secret growth, like in today's modern world, we have seen like it's almost like this practicing is not prevalent anymore. It's only prevalent like in Hima Mauklang, where we can still see the secret growth, and also like this. The point will be.
I think another way of combating or addressing would be to engage locals in nature conservation, like in documenting like biodiversity citizen science that we do. So I think to foster that kind of interest is maybe could be one of the ways.
Next, proper planning.
Architectures.
We should also have a proper planning resistant. Like if we see in Meghalaya that most of the city is unplanned, so there is no proper way where we can plant a tree in the street. So if you pass by, also like few trees are there, but in the the roadside and all, we cannot see trees. And how we can having a proper a city planning where we can build eco-friendly houses which can help in combating the climate change. And
mining.
Monitoring.
and also we can see like in Meghalaya there the system like the hunting of animals still prevail in the rural parts of Meghalaya. What is the reason of this? Because the government is not strictly implementing the regulation, and also there is no one to monitor those animal. And how we can bring changes in this, we can use the technologies like drones and all to monitor these illegal activities. Like like we can see the land system in Meghalaya. Like in the olden days, there is a system of right land where no one can have a private ownership of a land. Like we can still implement this concept in our today land holding. Like in Meghalaya, if we see in this modern era, we can see like one person is having more than one land. So if we have this community land, like no one will have a private land, and this will reduce the commercial use of land, and can also preserve the trees, the the soil and all. That's all.
Good morning. So the policy measures, as we talk about, most of the policies are made by high-level consultant in the government department, but they remain in the paper only. They don't come to the ground. This is the main problem. So what we need is to bring this policy. Already experts are there. There is no dirt in making policy. Now so many experts of policy. What we need is to implementation is the main problem. So we have to think about how to implement. So first comes the awareness, creating awareness, and everybody has to contribute their own part. It's not that we tell is their duty, is our duty. Whoever has their own role, they have to play their own role. Contribute, each and every individual should contribute through awareness campaign, and this will be the first change you have to change in our behavior. Second is that sustainable practices, how to the rural areas, urban areas, most people know, but they don't follow. The policies are already generated by all the line departments. So the what we mean is that what to implement, what we also biodiversity board, we have made our action plan, but the problem we face is implementation. So we need a collaboration between all the line departments, including the stakeholders, so that it can be implemented. Because only if one department goes or one stakeholder agree, others don't agree, then is a conflict. So all the stakeholders should come to a common platform, and all the line departments. Then the policy should be made because area specific. We have Garo Hills, Khasi Hills, Jaintia Hills. So Jaintia is impacted on mining. Garo Hills has less mining, but other deforestation issues, and Khasi Hill mostly urbanization and limestone mining. So policies has to be made area specific wise. So then area specific wise policy and implementation in the ground with the stakeholders. And apart from that, climate change and sustainable practice, if we can touch upon some sensitive issues, like nobody in India, because of this vote bank politics, nobody touches that one. So if we can go touch that issue, if we can, as you know, India is overtaken China in population.
So we genuinely need some kind of population control, because population resources are not increasing. So these are the key measures. So the resources, the population will need. You cannot say the government has to give permission, water, food to it. If the resources are finite, but the population is infinite, then there will be no solution. So population control is mainly required in India. This is the major challenge.
Thank you so much.
This
Next one.
hill specific problems that he has mentioned is very good, because all the different Khasi Hills, Jayanti Hills, Garo Hills have their own problems. So you cannot devise one plan for entire state. Exactly. We come to our next activity, which is going to be a little bit interesting. Dr. Nawaz will tell you about it.
So as you can see, it's number 4 on today's agenda, which is reducing ecological footprint, which has to be department specific solutions and ownership. So we had broken down your teams into that, we mixed them up, but for this session, can we have where you all sit with your within your departments, and like you're just alone? You're alone. Good, you're singled out. And yeah, just
From Forest Department, how many people are there?
yeah, you're all of 3 are
No.
already. So this is biodiversity.
No,
board,
just
right?
biodiversity
Okay.
board, how many people are there? 4.
Maybe
Okay.
you can join there.
Yes. Because it is
This
department
forest
specific.
department. Yeah, but
Yes.
yeah, different cell, right? Yeah.
And
they can be brought into one sector. Just pick one. No, we'll give him something. So he'll make laws. Law, did you? Let's give them the law department then. So it'll be a little different.
yes, he can point out where
Yeah.
they are producing the footprints. So let this be forest, biodiversity, and this will be the law department for today.
Law department.
Yes.
Yeah. All 3 of you are lawyers today, some sort of lawyers. Okay. So this might seem like a vague question, right? But we do have a very specific example which was, tried and tested. So let's see. Okay. So WWF India had a very interesting workshop which we were a part of, and the students of USTM. And this is what exactly our exercise wants to do, where you just pick out specific examples which
So every
sure.
department has an ecological footprint. That means we are producing some kind of waste which is adding up to the ecological footprint, like the use of paper, or maybe the use of vehicles, or maybe industry has too much of pollution. So you have to find out such issues which are adding up to the ecological footprint from your department, and you have to find out a solution to minimize the adverse effect. What we had done is we had chosen the number of papers that are being used per semester. This is the example I have put out. This is going for the national camp also. So the total answer sheets that are there are 4,000 students, and they give 3 sessionals plus 1 final exam, which adds up to 16,000 sheets of 16,000 copies or exam copies. They have 5 papers each in one semester on an average, which gives you 80,000 copies. Plus they have 4 assignments per semester, which adds up to 96,000 copies. Then there are some back papers also, so around another 4,000. So we have 1 lakh copies, and in one copy we have 10 sheets of paper. So the final amount that comes up is 10 lakh sheets of paper that are used
per year,
per semester.
per semester.
Per semester, yes. And what happens to these 10 lakh sheets of paper is that they are taken to a very remote location and they are burned, because there is no space to keep so many papers with us. So after a time frame, what we do is, when everybody has to call for papers and this and that, after the entire process is done, we take it to a remote location and we burn it. What happens when we burn it? There is air pollution, chemicals like dioxin, methane, carbon emissions are there, then the soil becomes toxic, and the carbon footprint that we have calculated is around 1 A4 sheet of paper. When you burn it, it releases 20 grams of carbon dioxide. So the final amount per semester that we are releasing is 20,000 kilograms of carbon that is released into the atmosphere by a university which is supposed to not release that much. So just imagine of your department. So what we have done is that now we take this paper, at least not all, we have just started. So we take this paper, we recycle it, we do not put any kind of adhesives or chemicals. We create some handmade papers, we create some seed papers. You know what are seed papers? Where we put seeds in the paper while we dry it. So whenever that paper you throw it somewhere after your use, it grows into a plant. So this is the innovative solution we came out with. Now we are producing papers. Whenever any guest comes, we can give them that, so that this idea gets propagated. So using I'll not say that entire 10 lakh sheets of paper, but at least we have started. And I think when all the departments take this up, we will at least be able to reduce these emissions, not completely stop it. So just taking this into example, you think of any ecological footprint your department is producing and any innovative solution to reduce it. Here I think the law department uses maximum
think
paper, but
about
those
your-
that don't just think in terms of paper.
Yeah,
You can
about
think
your
in
office
terms of
and-
another thing also. This is just an example.
What happens in your office as the like day-to-day things? Anything, anyone that you can single out and
And the idea has to be your innovative idea. It can be one idea, it can be two ideas. Like in very hot parts, they have made I forgot the name of the state. So what they did was, it was a very area where the people were under the poverty line. So they have made a vegetator. If you Google it, you'll find it. It's a refrigerator kind of a thing made of mud, where they maintain the temperature inside without the use of any electricity. So they have reduced the footprint that. So these are some of the ideas that were presented in the WWF bootcamp. So you can just take some ideas from that and innovate yourself, innovate your ideas. You can use the chart papers which are the back side of these chart papers. Chart paper details. It will. There's another thing to keep in mind, that we can also say that we can stop the use of paper. That will make us resistant. We are planning at resilient communities. So we cannot do anything with the source. We have to innovate with or manipulate with the end product so that we become resilient, not resistant.
start, sir? Yes. Good afternoon again. So we are presenting the department. This is the topic which it's about ecological footprints used by our department. So since our department, most of us are from forest, so we take this from our division, social forest division. So first of all, we'd like to say like social forest division mostly we concentrate on nurseries and plantations. So the ecological footprints emitted by our division, that is social forestry, is the usage of polythene bags, both because these polythene bags we use are mostly for raising nursery seedlings annually to meet the targets, and also to maintain a constant supply of stock materials to the public, because now most of the public are also interested in raising plantations, and also for planting at our own plantation sites, and also to give awareness and celebrations of different events such as World Forestry Day, World Environment Day, Earth Day, then this Biodiversity Day, then Ozone Layer Day, Vernwatsav, and so on and so forth. So to see a few like to raise a nursery bed, we require polythene bags. So the required number of, I mean, the requisite is for one number of bed, 4 kgs of polythene bags is required. So for one bed, the 1000 number of plants is being raised as per standard size of the beds. And so if we talk about our division, social forest division is sales. If you talk like different divisions, they have specific kind of number of beds being allotted or sanctioned by the government. So let us take for one division. Suppose if annually 300 beds are being allotted or sanctioned, and 4 kgs of bags are required for one bed. So in 4 kgs number of bags, in 300 number of beds, it's 1200 number of kgs of bags are required. And yeah, 12 kgs of bags are required. And suppose in 1 kg there are 320 number of bags are present. So we multiply that 1200 kgs into 320 numbers of bags, it comes around to 3,84,000 numbers of poly bags being used annually. So the carbon footprint of plastics is approximately 5 numbers of kg bags. It emits around 1 kg of carbon dioxide is emitted. So if you multiply 5 number of poly bags, which is 1 kg, into the number of 3,84,000 numbers which is being emitted annually, it comes around to 19,20,000 tons, which is almost 20 tons by one division.
In a year?
Yeah, in a year. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you take the whole Meghalaya, we have 7 divisions. That means 7 districts under this division. So under the division, if you multiply that 20 tons into 7 number of districts, it comes around to 114 tons of carbon dioxide being emitted by our department for the whole state annually.
Tons.
Yes.
1000 kilograms?
Tons, kg, this one.
Yeah.
140 tons.
140 tons.
Yes, is being released. So
that is the carbon footprint.
okay. So the harmful effects of plastic bags, as we all know, plastics is non-biodegradable. First of all, it takes years to break down or to decompose, and it emits most of the harmful gases. It pollutes our rivers and land, causing land, water, and air pollution. It affects the fertility of the soil because makes the soil suffocate, and also it affects the health of human and animals. It also, even because in nursery mostly we have drainage systems also. Sometimes those bags becomes they didn't decompose, and they block the drainage systems. Moreover, we give this poly bags being given to this municipal corporation for dumping, but we don't know how much it burns or what did they do. But some of the few which are left, we burn them or we bury them. But still, that also it's not taken into account because we don't know how much it is decomposed. So the solutions, we have 2 of the solutions and alternative ideas which we have done in our nursery. We have done a trial basis to how to replicate this poly bags. First, we do with this eco-friendly bags like jute bags, non-woven bags, coconut shells, or sometimes with bamboos. But these rules or policies, like what we said earlier, is not being framed, because even for raising the nursery, we have norms being set up by the government. Even for this to replicate, we have to have a kind of new guidelines or norms to raise the nurseries. So that also we are still waiting for that, so that we can till date there has not been rules or regulation has been implemented. And the second one is the hydroponics. As we all know, some plants they grow directly underwater, but this requires a lot of efforts and also infrastructure. Whereas because and also sometimes we know like its cost is very high, and some of the staffs are not so familiar or very acquainted with the use of this hydroponics. So that is also a problem. So that is from our side regarding this carbon footprint. Thank you.
Yes, very nice. You have done the calculations very nicely and also the solutions. Just a little bit of training on hydroponics and a little bit more fun release, I guess will solve this problem. Thank you so much. Yes, very nice. Next, law department.
And like if we make any laws, like we will print out in paper only. But these laws are only for certain periods of time. When there is a new amendment, so they are, new laws will be made and we have to print another, we have to print. So the solution for this is by going paperless, by having, in a PDF formats, we can use tablets and all. And also, we can use artificial intelligence while typing and all, because there are so many errors. Like when we type, we do not see, like after printing it, we will see this error. So to minimize this error and to save paper, we can use artificial intelligence to detect all these error and make it perfect. That's all, because in law department we use only papers.
Thank you. Just to add to that, I think one of the things that easily is missed out is, say, e-waste, which is like all of the departments use it, right? So that could have been one problem. The other one is which you mentioned about. Sorry, I lost my train of thought about the emails and stuff, right? So this is some learning from the industry I am from, because we are sending so many PDFs and things like that. It's actually getting the cloud, like the cloud space is getting less and less. So one of the solutions, which is called digital detox, which our company also does, is that whenever we send an email, it's always a good practice, if there's a link, we send a link instead of the PDF attachment or a Word attachment or a PowerPoint attachment. So the link has much less space. So that's one solution. Yes, then the biodiversity board.
Okay, these are the ecological footprints from our Meghalaya Biodiversity Board. We don't have much actually. We have just one paper, but then we don't use that much of paper also that we really need to burn them or to cut them. But what we do, one practice that we do in our office is the letters that we have to send, we always send by email, and the suggestion that we got from sir, we will take it into consideration, like taking only the link instead of, because the cloud will get the space problem we have. Then next one, as we all know that from the board we have to document these people's biodiversity registers. So these people biodiversity registers, actually they are the kind of a document wherein we have to document the resources, the available resources that is present in all the communities, in all the BMCs. And in our state we have around 6,480 BMCs. So that many BMCs we have to make. For all the BMCs we have to make the PBRs for that, yeah. And then now it's in process, and each PBR will have around 160 to 170 page PBR in each PBR, yeah, the print. So we are not printing them, we have only the soft copy, and we have also developed an app for that, for our PBR, wherein everything that is being documented, we have put it in that app, PBR app, which we have developed, and it's in process now. Okay. So another one is transportation, that is by vehicle. This one we cannot avoid, because we go for a field survey, for many things we have to from one place to another, and we have to travel from here to Garo Hills and to all the districts. So this one we cannot avoid that. And another one is transportation for any conducting any meetings and all. Nowadays we do it by online mode and virtual. That's it.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I think we are done with this activity. Thank you for participating, and especially you all did the calculation as well, which is that is an important problem. Those are the black bags that you mentioned, right? Yeah.
Well, everybody has problems. I think we need more time. 45 minutes time, you cannot identify a problem and find a solution. This was just an exercise so that you take this back home, and then when you see a problem, then when you have the habit of that, then you see problems in everything. So slowly and steadily you'll get to understand that, okay, being in the forest department also, how much carbon are we releasing back into the atmosphere and how to neutralize it and become a little bit more resilient. Okay, thank you. We'll break for lunch, and after that we have the last session for this entire workshop. So we'll meet after lunch for the last session. Thank you.
Thank you.